literally from my first day, sort of a marketing lead sort of took me in and just was saying, we want to, just because you're an intern doesn't mean you can't sort of contribute and stuff. So any ideas, run it past. And it was sort of from day one creating an environment where I sort of felt very welcome and didn't feel like a complete cog in the system, basically, and felt like sort of listened to and appreciated, which was great from the start. So it meant, whenever I did come up with one of my crazy ideas and stuff, they wouldn't. I think probably after a while they're probably a bit sick of hearing me, but creating that environment in the first place was pretty essential to that. I mean, I would have still tried eventually, but I think that only helped facilitate that.
G'day guys, coming up on the show today is Alex King. Alex is the Senior Marketing Executive at Premier League club Crystal Palace and one of our beloved SportsGrad Pro members as well. Only 2 years ago, he was a uni graduate who had a dream of working in football full-time. And after a marketing internship at West Ham United, he's now smashing goals at Crystal Palace. Lots to look out for today, including how to land your first full-time job in sport, how to stand out in an internship, and what it's like working in the Premier League. Let's go.
I started volunteering.
It's all about who you know in sport.
Am I going to be calling the last 10 seconds of the grand final?
You can connect with the interviewer. The hand goes up when they've got to make a decision.
Having a network is one of the most important things you can do.
I didn't necessarily follow my passion. I followed my curiosity.
Once you've worked in sport, there's no going back.
And then lo and behold, before I left, I got offered too.
Hello and welcome to the SportsGrad Podcast, the ultimate guide to make it in the sports industry. I'm Ryan Walker, and joining me is the big Chelsea man, Ruben Williams. We are two mates who met at Cricket Australia back in the day, and each week we learn how people made it in sports. We tease out their career decisions, work habits, skills, and everything they do that makes them great, all so that you can learn how to get in, get promoted, and get thriving in the sports industry. Rubes, big Chelsea man, how's things?
G'day, Ryan. I'm doing well, thank you. Big Chelsea man. Yes, as people will find out when they listen to this episode, I was born in Chelsea in London. I'm not British. I just happened to be born there down the road from Stamford Bridge. So Chelsea, Royal Blue, born and bred, as not many can claim, but I'm not the biggest EPL fan, unfortunately. But the EPL entered my stratosphere this week because Manchester City popped into my inbox wanting to have a chat, which is not something that happens.
You can say that, you can go anywhere with that.
Yeah, not something that happens every single week in my life. But Manchester City came knocking because they wanted to do some research with me. And the reason why
City came knocking.
Yeah, the transfer window's open, so they were like, all right, who's around? So Man City at the moment, They are redeveloping one of the stands at the ground. They're currently working on building this great big concourse entertainment area, shopping, hotel, everything. It's going to be this incredible entertainment precinct. Anyway, they need a name for it. So, for example, outside the MCG, you've got the parkland around it, which is called Yarra Park. And nearby, you've got the Melbourne Sporting Precinct, and you've got the Docklands Precinct. They want to know, what do we call the precinct around the Etihad Stadium at the Manchester City football ground? And so their head of research presented me with a whole bunch of options. And it was kind of this it was a very sort of, not jarring experience, but I don't know what the word is, but when I think of Manchester City, I think massive club, expensive, huge amounts of money, quality. And their head of research presented to me the most blank PowerPoint slide possible with just 2 words at a time on it. Taking all variables out of it. He just wanted to get my opinion on one word versus another at a time in the most blank of blank PowerPoint docs. And I was like, is this really Manchester City doing research with me? Is this what it's like?
Yeah.
And so he would present a word to me and say, what do you think of this? What connotations does that bring up? And so I think the word Clipston Yard came up, and I was like, oh, that sounds very British. And then the word M11 came up, and I'm like, oh, that sounds like a highway. And then they said Medlock Park. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like a prison. And so they presented all those different options to me to try and get my thoughts on what this area should be called. And the reason they came knocking was because I ventured to Manchester City last year, did a tour of the stadium, and one, just happened to be on their contact list, but two, they wanted to know, like, for a fan traveling from the opposite side of the world who might make the pilgrimage to the Etihad once in their life, what sort of name is actually going to resonate with them, make sense to them, and add to their experience. So it was very interesting just seeing how a major, like literally one of the biggest sporting clubs in the world, go about doing something as simple as picking the name for their precinct they're about to build.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm totally with you. I kind of expected this humongous, amazing slide deck and experience for you to give your thoughts. But hey, I think like a lot of sport, we think it's rocket science. Some of it can be very, very simple. So no, that's awesome. If they want to know what a fan thinks, just flick my details over. Happy to give my thoughts. And I can even show them my shirt there that I've miraculously hung up in the background.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have another shirt soon because you've now got the voucher.
I was going to give you the credit there. For everyone listening in, Ruse has been gifted with a voucher to the Man City store, and it's come straight to my inbox. So expect to see a new jersey on the podcast very, very soon.
Yeah, I'm a Chelsea man, so I couldn't make use of that.
Yeah. I did check that you sure you don't want to switch to sky blue, but I'm assured that it won't happen. I love that you said Man City came knocking. That's the highlight of the episode for me. Man City just came across my desk. Anyway, we got a big episode, so let's get cracking. There is so much happening in the community right now. It's bonkers. So give us a rundown. What's been happening last week or so?
Yeah, absolutely. As always, it's going off. So community wins this week. First up, we have Ali Yusuf, who's been joining the Melbourne Uni Soccer Club as a team manager. Well done to you, Ali. And then another exciting thing that's come up is all the members joining the Melbourne Mavericks, because we are stoked to be the official game day volunteers partner. So the Melbourne Mavericks are the brand new netball team in the Suncorp Super Netball team in Australia, best netball competition in the entire world. And we have the absolute privilege to be helping out Melbourne's newest professional team have volunteers on match day, so the experience can be amazing for everyone. So that's a massive win for the community, because you don't need to be job hunting to, go off and volunteer once on a weekend. If you are working full time and want something interesting to do on the weekend, maybe you can pop down to Job Cane Arena and volunteer your time for the Mavs. So opportunities for a lot of people to get involved in that, which will be a lot of fun. As always, we have upcoming events. So if you're listening to this on Monday, tonight we have our community information night. If you are not a member but want to become a member and you are thinking about what's involved, then register for this event having tonight, because you'll get to chat with us. We'll run through exactly everything that goes on in the community, and you can find out how it's the quickest way to grow your networking sport and progress your career. Other than that, we've got Rookie Speed Networking coming up on the 22nd of April, and we also have Pro Speed Networking coming up on the 23rd of April. Other than that, we've got meetups to look forward to in May, which we'll have an announcement out very soon. So if you want to stay up to date with absolutely everything that's going on and you would enjoy a quick email from us, then every Friday we can happily pop into your inbox. All you have to do is head to sportsgrad.com.au/newsletter. And you can subscribe there. And if you need a link, there's one in the show notes.
Amazing. We are pumped for this community info night tonight. Anytime we can open the doors to new members, we absolutely love it. So if you're on the fence, find all the details in the show notes, on LinkedIn, wherever we're around. Come along. You will not regret it. In the meantime, grab a pen, enjoy this chat with Alex King. Are you aiming for a future in sport? Be ready to transform the industry. Study with Deakin and be prepared to redefine what it means to work in sport. Deakin's School of Exercise and Nutrition Sciences is ranked #1 in the world. So if you want to turn your passion for sport into an impactful career, get ready to push the limits of exercise and sports science, sport coaching, sport development, sports management, nutrition sciences, physical education, and more. Apply now to study at Deakin in 2024. Alex, welcome to the SportsGrad Podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Alex, you were one of the very first SportsGrad members to work in the EPL, which is an amazing accomplishment for you. And one of the amazing things about you that people might not know is that you were balancing 2 jobs within the EPL at one point in time. Is that right? You had 2 opportunities going?
Yeah, so I currently work at Crystal Palace Football Club, but so prior to that, I had an internship at West Ham United, and that was for around 18 months. And made the switch over just before Christmas in December. So been at Palace for about sort of 4 or 5 months now. So yeah, a new experience, learning a lot. So yeah, enjoying it so far.
I just think that's amazing because I know so many people who would love to work in the EPL, and then here's Alex out there with, EPL clubs just hanging off him, trying to get him to work for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's been quite unique because, sort of a couple of years ago, to think I'd sort of even work for, one Premier League club, never mind 2, in the space of quite a short time and very sort of early in my career has been a bit of a surprise sort of factor. But I guess you never really know what's going to happen next and what opportunities around the corner. So, yeah, no, it's been great so far.
Nice. Things only people can dream of, in my opinion. So it's pretty cool. Alex, mate, we start our podcast usually with some quick fire questions that our audience can get to know you a little bit better. So I'll kick off the first one. Speaking of jobs, what was your first ever job?
Yeah, so my first job when I was 18, and I worked 6 months in a call centre for a water company. So basically I had people sort of ringing up whether they had an issue where their bill was too high or there was a leak in their local town. They'd sort of ring me up and I had to basically replace the robot, when you're pressing a number and it says press 1 to go here, 2 to go here. So instead they get through to me and then I just press a button, then they go off to whoever can deal with their inquiry basically. So I had about 300 calls a day, just saying the same line over and over again. So I'm glad that time's behind me, but I guess you've got to start somewhere, right?
That's it. Always got to start somewhere. And what did you study at university?
Yeah, so I did business and marketing management at Oxford Brookes Uni. So graduated from there in 2022. So a couple of years ago now.
You've probably got sporting moments happening every week being at Crystal Palace, but what is your favourite sporting moment of all time?
I kind of have 2, one from a fan perspective and one probably at work. I mean, from a fan perspective, I'd probably say 2012 Champions League final. I'm a big Chelsea fan, so yeah, Chelsea beat Bayern Munich in the final in their backyard. So the Didier Drogba winning penalty there, I was still one of the big highlights of my life and stuff. Not forgetting that anytime soon. And then probably in work, I was very fortunate to be part of the team to be out in Prague for the Conference League final. So we were playing Fiorentina and so I was helping out look after a fan zone. We had about 24,000 West Ham fans up there. And yeah, we won the final, which was sort of our first trophy in sort of 50 odd years. And yeah, it was just absolutely mental, to be honest. And then, flying back from that to having a parade in London and just, seeing the sea of claret and blue was just absolutely unbelievable. One of the most mental weeks of my life. So a couple to choose from.
Can I jump in quickly about the Chelsea Champions League final? Was that the game where none of them, there were people making their debuts in the Champions League final team? I remember Ryan Bertrand started that game.
There's a great stat about him. Yeah, his first Chelsea start was in the Champions League final, which is just absolutely mental.
It was the third string team trying to win the Champions League final, and they somehow won.
I mean, all the defenders, Gary Cahill, David Luiz, they'd done their hamstrings and stuff like that. John Terry got a red card against Barca in the semi-final. So it was a very, we had Jose Boswinga's right back. It was basically our reserve team. And to play like Bayern Munich at the time where, they're basically the best team in Europe and they were doing it on sort of home soil as well. It's just the most ridiculous story, to be honest. And the run-in with Dan, sort of a sacked manager halfway through the season, it was just all the odds were against us, but somehow managed to get that first Champions League under our belt.
Some may not know that I was born on Fulham Road, just up the street from Stamford Bridge, so I'm a big fan of that.
No way.
Alex. Yeah. Yep. Chelsea Westminster Hospital, if you want to Google Maps.
Nice. a local.
That's it. What's your favourite interview question to ask of people, or be asked yourself if you have one that you feel confident answering or enjoy answering?
Yeah, I guess sort of my usual go-to is sort of asking like, what's the biggest issue sort of facing your business or sort of your department, and sort of, I guess, how my role could sort of contribute to fix that issue in the first place. Because I think a lot of the time during interviews, you sort of think of a company, it's like, this is the perfect company. They don't have any issues. They don't have any problems kind of thing. But then sort of you kind of see the cracks behind the surface a little bit. And it's good to sort of, I guess, have a bit more insight of sort of the things they're trying to fix and manage in the first place. So I think that always having that transparency just gives you a bit more insight into sort of what you want to get involved in the first place. And I think some of the answers can be quite telling. So yeah, that's probably my go-to.
That is the one question I tell people to ask if they're struggling for a question. So I'm glad you've said that, Alex. It's a great question,
I'll learn
mate.
from you, mate. So
great minds. I think I like it. Is there a book or a podcast that's helped you at work in some aspects?
Yeah. So I think when I was sort of making that switch from Palace to West Ham, a book I was reading at the time, Diary of a CEO, which I used to listen to religiously, not so much right now, but a book sort of came out around that time, and it was talking a lot about sort of having, I guess, like 5 buckets in life, and sort of one of them was kind of to sort of it was to do with like your knowledge, your skills, your network, your resource, and then sort of your reputation, and basically each one sort of fed into each other. And I felt like at the time of West Ham, sort of in terms of building that knowledge bucket, I kind of stopped learning after sort of a decent chunk of time, and I sort of felt like I needed sort of another step in terms to learn more, really. Usually sort of in your professional life, well, starting off with sort of school, university, that's kind of acquiring that knowledge, and then once you sort of build a skill set, you can sort of build a network from that, and then people see that you sort of have value and stuff, and then eventually you get sort of a reputation out of that. So yeah, that's sort of step one, that knowledge bucket. I just felt like I needed to try and learn and sort of express myself a bit more. So, and at Palace, since I made the switch over, I've definitely had that, and that bucket is definitely filling up. Yeah, so I'd say that helped me at that point in time in my life.
Nice. I do enjoy that podcast. And what's one platform that you use at work that you couldn't live without?
I would have said Notion, but recently at Palace, I've been getting on Microsoft To-Dos, and I mean, to be fair, well, it gives me a bit more stress, but I mean, it helps me organise my life a bit more, and yeah, especially with the job, you need to be pretty well organised. So yeah, I got a lot of to-dos just forming in a load of different categories and different departments and stuff, but probably say that one.
Actually, it's quick fire questions. We'll touch on this quickly, but is Notion part of a previous job, or is that a personal, platform that you've gone to?
Yeah, that's more personal, to be honest. Yeah, we don't really use it at work, but I mean, I used to use Evernote quite a lot, but then they started charging for it. So I went away and see whatever free versions there were. And Notion, I felt I could just sort of categorize everything, and it works sort of well for me, both like I kind of have a life version, then also like a work version as well. So yeah, I mean, I still use it quite a fair bit. So, but yeah, I'd say recently the to-dos sort of helps me crack on. So
yeah, Notion is life at SportsGrad, and Rubes and I have the exact same thing, one for life, one for work. So you're speaking our language, mate. It's been a good quick fire questions. We're definitely on the same wavelength. All right, last question for you before we jump into the good stuff. But if you had 30 minutes to pick anyone's brain, who would it be?
Oh, that's always a tough one. I'd probably have to say Jose Mourinho. In the footballing world, he's just an absolute icon. He has such a sort of aura about himself when he sort of walks into a room. The room would almost go silent, basically. And he's the type of person, when he talks, you listen. To be honest, I'll probably be too nervous to even ask a question, but I'll probably try and get him to become the Chelsea manager, because we kind of could probably do with a new appointment. So, but if he was up for it anyway. But
third stint.
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably say him.
Nice. Very good. Well, let's jump in. Can you tell us a bit about the role that you're doing at the moment? And I would love to hear as well some of the best bits about it, because it sounds fascinating.
Yeah, sure. So work as a senior marketing executive at Crystal Palace. Essentially, I kind of plan and execute marketing campaigns across the club. So that's across like various departments, from sort of hospitality, retail, ticketing, and sort of partnerships to sort of general club news, so newsletters. And that could be for both our men's, women's academy teams. So yeah, a lot of sort of campaign management, I guess. And yeah, a lot of it's predominantly through email marketing, but then sort of, yeah, putting a plan in place together for an event and sort of watching that go live across all departments, basically.
Nice. And in that role, is there anything that you've had to learn quickly on the job that perhaps you weren't doing in your previous role?
Yeah, I mean, it's just you're sort of messaging a lot of departments and stuff and staying on top of everything. And I think that's why the to-do list has been pretty essential for me, because there's a lot of things you might want to pick up, whether it's sort of an out-of-house campaign and you need to get sort of prices together for that and you need to follow up, or whether it's sort of ordering flyers, for example, for an upcoming fixture to sort of promote it. There's just so many aspects you need to sort of cover across. So the organisation is pretty key there.
Nice. And the marketing team at an EPL club, like I'm sure there's plenty of people out there who are probably thinking like, what does a marketing team look like at someone like Crystal Palace from a number of people and how it's structured and whatnot? We could have a crack at looking at LinkedIn, but I reckon it might be better to ask you what it looks like. So what does the marketing team consist of at Crystal Palace?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's quite interesting as well, because you think, especially with Premier League, with massive clubs as well, you think it's probably a bigger team than you actually think, but it's not too big, to be fair. There's currently sort of 4 people in our team right now. There's sort of a marketing exec. I'm a senior marketing exec, then I've got a manager and then a head of marketing as well. So yeah, we kind of have our own sort of teams chat and staying on top of all sort of campaigns, across the week, and then sort of any sort of upcoming future events as well. So we check in with each other every day on that. But yeah, it's small. It's smaller than you think. At West Ham, there was sort of probably about 8 of us, but once you get to sort of your Spurs, Arsenal, sort of United, that's when your marketing teams get a lot bigger and there's a lot of cooks.
It's interesting. Like I reckon you probably wouldn't expect such a differential. But, if you really think about it, like you look at, say, an Arsenal who has a lot more content, right? They're in the Champions League, like they're playing more games. So I kind of understand why they would need more people. But at the same time, you kind of, it's easy to assume that a Premier League team mostly looks the same across the staffing, the requirements of what you need from staff. But, 4 people, that's crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to do. But I think what's also interesting, you compare the size of those clubs. So say United, for example, with a Luton Town that got promoted this season, it's just, the teams, you just can't compare them both on the pitch and sort of on it in terms of resource available and stuff like that. So it really goes to show, I guess, how many people work behind the scenes. It's very dependent.
Nice. We obviously mentioned West Ham before, but do you want to walk us through, the series of jobs and experiences you had that's led you to now? I know you mentioned before you had an internship at West Ham, but take us through, I guess, the journey to get to here.
Sure. Yeah. So I think when people sort of get into sport, they have a similar story in the sense of they kind of firstly want to make it professionally as an athlete and then realise sort of pretty soon that dream's not going to become a reality.
I reckon that's everyone, hey? Everyone wants to play in the Premier League or the AFL or whatever. Yeah. And as soon as you realise that it's never going to happen, I'll just do the next best thing, I'll work in it.
Yeah, literally. And that was kind of the same for me. So yeah, as a teenager, when I knew that wasn't going to happen, I sort of had a little passion for business when I was sort of 16, 17, 18. And in my last couple of years at school, I was sort of learning that. And from that, I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I knew sort of from sort of a business and sort of marketing perspective, I was going to do that at university. So I was thinking, okay, that's sorted. But yeah, the marketing and sort of advertising side always sort of interested me. So I kind of had a sense I'd probably be in that kind of field originally. But the thing is with football especially, I was, had an idea it would be great to sort of work within it, but I never knew sort of where to start in the first place because I didn't have a network or anything. I didn't know anyone in the industry. And I used to just Google sort of how to work in football. probably since I was about sort of 16, 17, just like once a year, because nothing would show up as well. And I kind of just thought that people working in that just sort of, I guess, knew people, and it was a hidden job market basically, because I never saw anything advertised when you'd sort of go on your standard job boards and that. So yeah, it got to a point where basically I was in my last year at university. I was kind of thinking, well, we were hit with COVID as well. So, half the time I was in uni anyway. But yeah, within the last year, I was kind of running out of time. It's like, okay, right. And then probably think about what career I want to do. And I kind of just looked in Oxford, because we have two clubs there. One's Oxford City, who were sort of in the Conference League South, so non-league football. And then also Oxford United, who are in League One, so third division in England. And as a university, we've been to Oxford City a fair bit, but Oxford United was a little bit out of town, and we never happened to go to any of the games or anything like that. So I kind of just went on to both of their websites, went over to sort of, they had like a head of marketing's email and a head of commercial as well, because I was quite interested in that aspect. Dropped them an email, didn't get a response from Oxford City, didn't get a response from Oxford United. I was like, right, back to square one kind of thing. But then sent up a sort of follow email to Oxford United, again, didn't get a response. So I was like, okay, right, clearly ignoring me here. So I thought I'll just send one more, if they, and I basically send the email. I was like, look, appreciate you must be very busy, but if you could spare literally like 5 minutes for a chat, I mean, I don't even know just where to get started in the first place. So I did get a response. So the head of marketing responded to me there, and he said, yeah, we've got no vacancies, sorry, mate. And I was just like, okay, could kind of already guess that. But yeah, can we just, again, like hop on a call for about 5 minutes, just like, I need anything at this point, just like try and steer me in the right direction, give me a bit of advice. So we hopped on a call. I guess he saw a little bit of potential because, like I mentioned earlier, with our university, we hadn't sort of attending really any of their games at all, because we didn't really sort of see much sort of marketing around it. So I guess he sort of saw that as a potential opportunity to be like, okay, we'll let's see if we can try and boost our numbers from a university point of view. And basically, we were just going back and forth a bit on that. And one of his other sort of colleagues that was going to sort of, I guess, hire me on an internship, he was ill for a few months. So that basically kind of crashed and burned a little bit. And I sort of got a job in retail for about sort of 5-6 months, and then quit the job in retail and went back to them in January. And I was just like, look, this literally is my last chance. It's my last semester. Like, happy to do anything at this point. Popped on another call, and they were like, yep, sweet. We're going to stick you in the ticket office. You start next week. And my responsibility was kind of selling basically group package tickets to local businesses, grassroots clubs and schools. And yeah, I mean, just showing up to the stadium sort of the next week and stuff. I only worked sort of every Tuesday, and then try to go along to match days when I could. And yeah, I mean, even Oxford's stadium's quite funny as well, because you got 3 main stands and then one of them's a car park. So whenever like a striker blazes the ball over the top, it goes into the car park, and you usually have some kids waiting outside trying to steal the match ball and stuff like that. So, but even so, just like, I mean, having that experience of just being able to see the behind the scenes of a football club was like a really great opportunity for me in the first place, and just sort of, I guess, get started, and sort of it all went from that, really.
I love that.
Wow.
That was a great story.
The story.
So when you were at West Ham, what did you do to make the most of that internship, that opportunity, and make sure that you stood out during your time there?
Yeah. So with that role, that was again sort of like an email marketing role. I sort of basically tried to find any opportunity to sort of improve anything. So if we sent out newsletters, small things like the design of our graphics and stuff, and little things, because a lot of the promotion we do is sort of across sort of other departments. So if you have sort of an editorial team, they put together an article, or sort of social, put a YouTube video together. It's trying to get some more eyes on that, basically. So small tweaks, whether you just had a square, but okay, let's have a play icon on this, for example, to, incentivize people a little bit more to sort of click on something, or have a more engaging subject line, for example. Yeah, I guess from that sort of design element, we were testing a lot of different things. And yeah, whenever sort of I kind of came up with an idea and thought sort of, oh, guys, maybe we should try something like this out, and sort of experiment with it. And then we could see from the data whether there was a higher click rate or higher open rate, for example, and then you could sort of, gradually improve for that. So I think originally it would have been sort of, I guess, contributing from ideas aspect for like the design wise of our kind of email marketing, I guess.
It's a really good point, because I guess like a lot of people who are interning or just starting in the industry, like you've got that, it might not be full imposter syndrome, but it might be, there's that feeling of nerves when you start around wanting to contribute ideas and putting your neck out there and saying like, we could do this. So like, do you think that was down to you just thinking like, I'm just going to have a crack here? Or do you reckon it was kind of the environment that you were put in at the same time? Was it, did it really lend a hand to sort of saying that is welcome and people can come up with ideas and you can kind of go for it?
Yeah, I think it was definitely both, to be honest. I think I always wanted to at least sort of contribute something anyway and see if, I could try and make an impact in however way possible. But literally from my first day, sort of, like a marketing lead sort of took me in and just was saying, we want to, just because you're an intern doesn't mean you can't sort of contribute and stuff. So any ideas, run it past. And it was sort of from day one creating an environment where it sort of felt very welcome and, didn't feel like a complete cog in the system basically, and felt like sort of listened to and appreciated, which was great from the start. So it meant, whenever I did come up with one of my crazy ideas and stuff, they wouldn't, I think probably after a while, they're probably a bit sick of hearing me. But it just, creating that environment in the first place was pretty essential to that. I mean, I would have still tried eventually, but I think that only helped facilitate that.
Nice. No, that's awesome.
So the role that you got at Crystal Palace, can you tell us a bit about how you got that? Did you just apply for it, or was it through connections? And then would love to dive into a bit of the interview and onboarding process.
Yeah, basically I was on an internship at sort of West Ham, and it was getting to the point where sort of I was hoping that was going to sort of become permanent due to sort of like couple of reasons, sort of like budgeting and sort of stuff like that, having the sort of resource available. It looked like it wasn't going to be possible. So I kind of just kept my options open a bit, sort of see what was happening on the market. And this job at sort of Crystal Palace sort of lined up, which one of my manager at West Ham actually sort of worked at beforehand. So, and since it was a smaller team, he sort of knew everyone there very well. And funny enough, he was leaving anyway, to be honest, to go to Canada. And I was kind of sort of talking about sort of my situation, being a bit worried about the future, I guess. And sort of he gave me, I guess, a heads up. And I didn't even really see the application sort of online. And it was only, I think I handed my application in probably a day before the closing date. And so I basically just applied for that, had a few interviews, and then sort of from that started within a month after that. So, but, at the time, the West Ham were actually offering me a job as well. So then it was quite a difficult week to, I guess, analyze the sort of pros and cons and thinking what would be the best decision for me in the first place, really.
Can you take us into what you were sort of thinking in that occasion? Because I think it is a unique position, but I think it's, when people are starting out in their career, often, there can be a couple of options in terms of what you're thinking about. And it might be, this is going to give me more career progression. This is going to pay differently. What is the day-to-day going to look like? And you're obviously weighing up a lot of things in your head. Can you sort of take us into, what you were thinking and how you sort of went through that process to make a decision?
Yeah, I can't lie. It felt like a transfer window deadline day almost. I mean, that was probably the closest thing I felt to it. It was quite a high pressuring week, right? Because it was almost sort of, when you're applying for a job and you sort of need a deadline to give an answer and that kind of thing. And I kind of needed the timelines to sort of come together and sort of hoping that I'd be sort of an offered a job around the same time. So then I'd have enough thinking time to, I guess, respond. And since Palace offered me a job beforehand, it kind of sort of put the pressure a bit where I was sort of kind of saying to West Ham, like, well, been offered a job here. So, I mean, unless you guys got any ideas kind of thing, then it might be an easy decision. But when I was offered a job at West Ham as well, it just made it was very difficult. And I just literally had to analyse sort of every aspect from from the culture to sort of progression to general responsibility. And basically, in the end, I sort of saw myself progressing sort of further and quicker at Palace than I did to West Ham. And I think being at a smaller club especially, it just gives you much more scope for that. And you sort of take on a lot more projects and given a lot more responsibility that you wouldn't necessarily always get at a bigger club as well. So I think that was kind of the sort of main rationale behind my thinking in the first place. But yeah, it was a very almost uncomfortable week, even though, like I said, it's quite a nice position to be in. But definitely at the time, it was very difficult.
Do you remember what your gut was telling you immediately?
Yeah, I mean, it was a difficult one. I was kind of shifting throughout the week. At the start of the week, I was sort of saying Palace, and then sort of halfway through the week when I was going into work, and I was thinking, oh no, I actually really enjoy working here as well. And then, yeah, come the end of it, it was just, I just had to just write a list. And then I guess the pros outweighed the cons for me, I guess, leaving. So yeah, from the sort of 4 or 5 months I've been here, it's definitely been the right decision. So relieved in that point of view.
Yeah.
Alex, I went through a similar process when I had just left Cricket Australia and was jumping into SportsGrad, and also had an offer for another contract role on the side. And there were a couple of other jobs that I was looking at as well because I wasn't really sure where to go next. And what you described reminded me of the matrix that I drew up to try and make this decision. I kind of, on one axis, wrote down all the names of the organizations, and on another axis, I put a headline for every single factor that I felt was important to me, whether it was like, money or autonomy or travel or whatever it might be. And underneath each one, I gave it a score out of 10. And so I could literally go to like the end of each line and be like, which opportunity has got the highest score? And that helped me kind of make a bit more logical decision. The illogical part was I ended up going with SportsGrad anyway, even though like it didn't give me as much things as the some of the other opportunities. But that's why I asked about your gut, because sometimes that knows best.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I'm glad it was sort of the right decision in the end anyway. So it's all worked out so far anyway.
I think the other thing that, people, toss up here is like pay. And I think when you're early in your career, you're thinking about pay a lot. You're like, how much can I get? Like, I'm not on that much, so I want more. But I think, and a lot of people go through this process of, but they're going to pay me more. But this opportunity over here will probably give them the tools they need to grow and, be better in their career longer terms. I think it sounds like that was probably a factor for you as well, looking at it and being like, well, this is probably going to help me longer term. I'm not sure what the pay was like, but, often people go through that, and it sounds like you've made the call and a good one, because it's sort of helping you along the way. So,
yeah, I think pay's always an interesting subject. I mean, to be honest, at Oxford United, for example, that was an unpaid internship, and sort of West Ham that was paid. But when it came to this opportunity as well, the way I kind of just see it, especially in the early part of my career, is just like I was saying earlier about building those buckets of like sort of that knowledge and that skill set in the first place. And I felt if I can build that, then the pay will come eventually, kind of thing. But it does make it difficult as well, because living in London, especially, and cost of living crisis and all that, doesn't help. But yeah, it's definitely a factor you obviously need to be aware of. But sort of, that was kind of my thinking behind it. Eventually, it'll pay off.
Can you tell us a bit about what a day in your life currently looks like? Because I know a lot of people, particularly in Australia, a lot of sports lovers over here have this ambition to move to London to work for a Premier League club. What does it actually look like and feel like? Are you on the tube every morning, hustling into work with the rest of London, walking along River Thames, going off to your club, sitting down at your desk, having a meeting, getting a coffee? Like, paint the picture for us. What's a day at a Premier League club like in London?
And I want to know as well, like, do you get merch as well? Like, give us the full whammy.
Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, I guess it's unique because I can sort of say from both West Ham and sort of Palace's point of view. But yeah, essentially, well, especially at Palace. So I kind of had 3 working locations, and it's flexible working as well. So sort of I can work from home as well. But I'm usually at sort of Selhurst Park, the stadium, sort of once a week, and then we have an office in Soho, which is sort of the marketing team and designers basically, and that's sort of usually twice a week, and then sort of the odd opportunity to be able to go to the training ground, which I always like doing because it's a proper facility there, and yeah, recently got built up, and yeah, I can do the odd thing like sort of a kit shoot there, for example. But yeah, generally, so my day kind of starts with looking at the campaign plan. So anything we've got sort of going out across different channels sort of during the week, and usually sort of one of us in the department will be sort of looking after events. So for me recently, since I've joined, it's been sort of looking at the women's team basically, and been trying to sort of build our attendances up and everything like that. So a couple of projects been working on was because our women's team play at Sutton United, so a men's team in sort of the 4th division of English football basically. So you kind of have a capacity there of around sort of 5,000, but then you have the men's stadium, which is about sort of 27,000. And sometimes we get the opportunity to get the women to sort of play at the men's stadium. And so we had a game in November, but I joined at that point. So one of the first projects I was working on was, well, it only happened a few weeks ago actually, was trying to sell as many tickets as possible for that women's fixture. I know we're kind of a bit of a unique situation as well, because we're in the 2nd division in the women's team, and basically only one spot can go up to the WSL, so the Premier League equivalent. So we're kind of in a sort of promotion battle at the moment. And yeah, that sort of exposed to me, because I remember sort of having to put a marketing sort of plan together, for example, and didn't have too much of an idea basically, and just sort of figure out as I go along. And since I've done a couple with some of the earlier on fixtures, sort of starting to get the hang of it a bit more now. But yeah, so it'd be looking at sort of your campaign schedules, looking at the main events that you have to be working across basically. And yes, staying in touch with other departments, sort of communication is very key. You know, if we're launching something like season ticket renewals, for example, that sort of I'll be briefing designers a lot of sort of the assets we want, whether that's going to come across sort of email form or sort of content and social, and that sort of everyone's sort of on the same page basically, and sort of we can plan those and execute those campaigns accordingly. So that's kind of the main crux of it.
Nice. And you do get merch?
Oh right, yeah, I forgot the merch bit. Yeah,
no, I was serious about that.
yeah. West Ham, we got a lot of merch. Palace, I got a coat. But to be honest, first of all, problems right here is when you get quite a lot of merch as well, as you actually don't really mind not getting more, because obviously they update it every season. You could have a new training range every sort of 4 or 5 months as well. So you know, most of your wardrobe's going to be sports kit anyway, but basically, so I haven't got as much there, but I don't really mind too much right now.
Yeah, fair enough. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's good to get a bit of an insight and hear how it all works. It's yeah, the only thing we get to see is like Sunderland Till You Die and that kind of Netflix docos. We get a bit of a taste of what it looks like. So it's it's really cool hearing about it.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned Sunderland Till I Die, to be fair, because that was actually I'd say that documentary was actually quite sort of pivotal, I guess, in sort of working a career within that, because a similar thing is like in one of the episodes, they were trying to get a record attendance for like a League One game. And Sunderland is, especially having the stadium lies about 42,000. And for a League One, that's a huge stadium. And I think, they were close to almost selling out that. And seeing the behind the scenes from a staffing point of view, not necessarily from the footballer's point of view, I found that like really interesting. So just seeing people working in the ticket office, people in the marketing team, and I guess that kind of showed me in the first place, okay, those jobs do actually exist. So yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I'd say that was actually quite helpful and sort of pivotal and sort of getting started on my career as well.
Yeah, I remember that episode actually, and who was it? Charlie somebody, he was the owner. He absolutely sprained. Like Medvin or something.
He works at Charlton now, so but he's a unique character.
he was just hosing the marketing team or something because they didn't get the record and they were like busting their ass to get it. And that was an incredible doco. They had a new season this year and it's just not anywhere as good. It's kind of weird.
Yeah,
anyway.
No, they switched up a bit, but yeah, that second season especially, absolutely loved it.
Yeah, it was really good. Tell us about the challenges as part of the role. You know, it's not all rosy sometimes. What are the challenges you're facing sort of day to day, week to week?
Yeah, I think it's quite easy to sort of get overwhelmed with how much is going on. You know, a lot of the time there can be long hours and that can sort of switch between sort of different departments and stuff because you could have sort of match day stuff and my role doesn't require as much sort of match day responsibility. So that can take up a lot of weekends. There could be a lot of long hours for, you know, if you're trying to do a campaign launch and things might not always go right, for example. So it could be a lot of long hours there and then just generally sort of staying on top of everything, sort of your organization being key and stuff. It's not always incredibly glamorous and it's a fairly sort of well known to be kind of an underpaid sort of industry as well. So it does take up a lot of sort of your time and your effort, but it's a place where a lot of people want to be and have, I guess, the privilege to be in the first place. So you always have to be sort of grateful for the fact and see the impacts that you're making, not both to the club and the fans and see the changes and impact it'll make.
Nice. A couple more questions before we wrap up. One thing I would love to hear from you, what are some of the essential skills that you reckon you need to do your job? For someone who's thinking about working in sports marketing in the Premier League, what are some of those essential skills?
Yeah, so I think the main thing is definitely just organisation. And I like to think I'm an organised person anyway, but I think, since taking this job on, I've had to level that up, I guess.
You use Notion effectively.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, got a lot of notes there, a lot of categories within that. But I think also from a communication point of view, because if you're speaking to loads of different departments, and I think especially at Palace that we got a lot of different locations as well, you might not see everyone face to face. So it's especially being able to build those relationships sort of early doors and sort of get that FaceTime in as early as you can, really. So then it doesn't feel like it's a sort of just someone you know via email or via a Teams message, basically. And if sort of from that, especially when devising a campaign together, it only makes things sort of easier, right? And then the third one is just sort of, I guess just working, well, classic, but sort of just working hard in the first aspect. You know, if you don't work hard, you'll get caught out pretty quickly, especially when times on sort of late Fridays, for example, when most of your mates have a bit of an easier day on a Friday and sort of finish up a little bit earlier. You know, Fridays, especially in the sporting world, when you've got most of your games at the weekend and stuff, that's usually when you have to put in those extra hours and stuff like that. So I think that's pretty key.
Nice, mate. And last question before we wrap up, but any advice you'd give yourself if you go back thinking about when you're at university, what would you say to yourself going back?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's the key things would just be, you got to be like quite relentless with it. Sports like very tough to get into, and a lot of people want to sort of get in, and it's very easy that job goes online and then suddenly you got a fair few hundred applicants within like the first day, so it's very hard to stand out in the first place. And I think a lot of people have issues, like I did when I first started, sort of how to get started in the first place, right? And the way I kind of did was looking local. So wherever you are in the world, whether you might not have a professional sports club around the corner, but if there's any sort of opportunity, whether that could be sort of via an internship or through some volunteering, for example, then just having that sort of work experience is essential. And it's not just sort of your education, right? It's sort of putting what you've learned theory-wise into practice. From having that experience at Oxford United, that only helps to be. Also, it's just putting yourself out there in the first place. Like, I mean, I remember one of my modules I had to sort of create a LinkedIn account and that kind of thing, and that was all quite new to me. And when I left sort of Oxford, I had sort of a period of about sort of that whole summer trying to sort of get a job within sport. And yeah, I just kind of got LinkedIn Gold membership and just tried to speak to as many people as possible. And, there was a lot of sort of people who wouldn't respond, and you have to sort of tailor your message differently. But yeah, you have to be just relentless in the fact that you kind of just need to keep going. And a lot of people were sort of saying like, okay, it's fine if you don't get a job in sports straight away, you can, get a marketing job elsewhere and then sort of, build up your skill set and then transfer over. But I guess for me, I was kind of just like, nah, it's got to happen. Like, sort of one way or another. Yeah, I'd say them two things. I think there was something else in my mind, but I've forgotten it now.
No, it's all good advice, mate. And yeah, it sounds like sort of the crux of what you're saying is like take it really seriously early on, and it'll happen for you. Just kind of let it all just go by. You make your own luck in a way. So, no, it's really awesome. Mate, we might leave it there, but we have loved having you on and really appreciate. Obviously, you're a SportsGrad Pro member, which we absolutely love, and part of our community. It's always great to have someone who is at an EPL club and have different people from so many different areas of sport in our community. But just hearing a little bit about your journey tonight and what it's like, between the four walls of Crystal Palace and the journey to get there, it's been really cool. So I really appreciate your time today, mate. I know it's early there in London when we're recording, so appreciate your time on probably a cold morning over there. So thanks again.
Thanks very much, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Guys, it's time now for the people's segment of the podcast, Ask SportsGrad, where every week we answer a question directly from our community. If you'd like to ask a question first, become a SportsGrad member. We've got a fresh intake coming up on May 14. Head to our website to join the waitlist, and you can add your question to our member-only Discord server. Rubes, this one comes from Dan, and he says, any advice on how to address cultural fit on a resume? What do organizations look for when they say that, and what should I be doing to show that I would be a good fit? Great question.
Great question, Dan. Okay, first thing to probably address is what does cultural fit actually mean? And I think in simple terms, it basically means, are you going to be easy and enjoyable to work with? So, are you going to fit in with the team so we can achieve results together? And also, while we're there, we want to have fun. So are you going to be an enjoyable person to work with? So, your personality and the way you work with others is a big factor in your cultural fit. So in terms of how do you address it on a resume, a lot of those are personal characteristics that are quite obvious when you see people in person. So it's hard to tell from a resume. But one of the other things that comes up with cultural fit is a lot of people will say, I just want to hire someone who gets it or who understands it, and they never really define what it is. They just say, can you get it? And leaves a lot of people in the dark. Like, what is get?
What is it?
what am I getting? But basically, if you get it, it basically means that you've worked in a certain space before. So if you were to try and display cultural fit on a resume, the way to do it is to show that you have done similar things before. So one way that you can show cultural fit, and actually I might go back a step. A lot of people who work in the sports industry started out volunteering in grassroots sport, and they did their time there, they networked, they put in the yards, and eventually they got a step up. So one way you could show cultural fit to fit in with those people who are already working in sport is go and volunteer in grassroots yourself, because that is one way to get the experience. And when people look at you on paper, they can say, okay, this person is highly likely to get it because I can see they've been volunteering at this football club this season. So that's really the only way you can do it on a resume. Actually, another way you could do it is display it in your interests section. So in the resume template that we have in the SportsGrad community, it includes a subheading called interests. And under that section, we encourage people to write down, what are you interested in? What do you do outside of work? Do you travel? Do you play music? Do you play sport? Do you write? Do you read? What is your life outside of your profession? And that's another way to kind of show cultural fit. Are you going to be able to have a conversation? Or are the people who are going to employ you going to enjoy working with you based on your hobbies, basically? So in terms of things that you can put on your resume, those are kind of the two things. And what do organizations look for when they say that? It's really this kind of gray sort of thing, but it's a combination of, do you get it? Are you enjoyable to work with? Are you easy to work with? And in terms of what should you be doing to show that you would be a good fit, number one is I would be hanging out with the types of people who are likely to hire you. So if you can join circles like the grassroots clubs, or if you can network with those people so you can understand what are, mature managers in the sports industry like, and how can I learn to build a relationship with them, then you're more likely to be perceived as a good cultural fit.
Awesome. I took the liberty to look up a few podcasts that may help you, Dan, as well with your question. And episode 109, if you want to go back, we did an episode on how to conquer cultural fit. So might not necessarily speak directly to the resume part, but exactly what Rose has mentioned there. I think we talked through that as well. So it's another episode you can listen to get a bit of advice on that one. Awesome. Well, if you'd like to ask us a question or ask our friends in sport a question, sign up and become a member. May 14 is the date, Rubes. It's in the calendar. It's marked pretty much in every single person's calendar that's coming up. It is going to be a big day. Looking forward to welcoming some brand new members. As we've mentioned before, lots inside. Member community. We've got job boards. We've got career resources. We've got events. We've got everything you need to start working in sport this year. So join our waitlist now and get notified when the community opens on May 14. It is a big date for everybody.
Huge date.
In the meantime, find us on LinkedIn. We speak a lot on there, so keep up to date with everything on LinkedIn. Give us some love. Send it to your mates. If you enjoy the show, subscribe on Apple or follow on Spotify. Thanks for listening. See you next time.
Hey friends, one last thing before you go. If you really want to make an impact in sport, then subscribe to the SportsGrad newsletter. Inside, we share all the latest job openings and networking events, so you're always aware of opportunities to land a job and grow your network. Plus, we share a Q&A with a professional on how they grow their career in sport. Here we talk about things like how they moved overseas or negotiated their salary or landed a new job or promotion, made a career change, and so much more. It's kind of like a little boost of inspiration in your inbox before the weekend. So if you're like us, you're career driven and you're keen to progress quickly, you're going to love the SportsGrad newsletter. To get it, head to sportsgrad.com.au/newsletter to subscribe or follow the link in the show notes. See you next time.